Good afternoon, Mallory James Mahoney. Welcome on VH Berries.
Hello, thank you for having me.
I am extremely grateful. How are you doing today in Texas?
I'm doing great. It's my week off, so it's been nice to just be home for a little bit. I actually had my dogs out with me in LA for the last 2 or 3 weeks. So I just brought them back to Texas and they're loving it. They have a yard again to run around in, so they're very happy.
Bringing the pets back in Texas to make them happy. Mallory James Mahoney, and your location, which is Texas, is most likely to be at the exact same distance to the Kiki-Waka Ranch in Dusty Touch in Wyoming than to Los Angeles.
Yeah, I feel like they're probably, about the same distance. I'm very interested in where Dusty Tush is in Wyoming because I think it'd be a fun place to visit in real life.
Absolutely, but my calculation were not that precise. I just calculated with my eyes the distance between those states. But I would love to discuss about this television series that I am enjoying very much. Can you tell us a little bit more about Bunk'd?
So the basics of Bunk'd is that we are a summer camp show, and it's all about all of the camp owners, counselors, and campers that live there, and we stay there for the summer, and pretty much how we get into kind of a bunch of trouble all the time. I feel like someone's almost dying every week. It's a little crazy.
This is very funny because when you are talking and when I'm listening to your voice, I can hear the same voice as your character, which is normal.
Yeah, Destiny and I are very similar. I feel like I have a little bit more of an actor voice, I guess, for certain projects that I do, and it's different for each type of film that I do, whether it's comedy, drama, every different aspect of it, but slowly through the years, Destiny and I have become a lot more similar through a lot of things. And so I feel like sometimes, especially just when I'm talking normally, and then she has a very normal line, nothing crazy or extremely Destiny about her, we probably do sound very similar.
Absolutely, Mallory James Mahoney, and there is also a very central character in season 6, which is the last one available. I am talking about a cow because, for example, in season 4, we met Bessie, but right now, Shaquille O'Neal
Yes.
is on another completely new dimension.
Shaquille O'Neal is a breed of her own in the cow world, I would say. She's the first cow that has ever sneezed on me. So that was a very interesting experience of what to film. Oh, sorry, my dog came to visit. Hi, PK. But Shaquille O'Neal is a very fun cow. I love her. Her real name is Freckles. And I love cows. I love I love every animal. But I especially love cows because they give such good hugs. I just love hugging them. So I love whenever we get to have scenes with Shaquille O'Neal and I get to give her a big hug.
Mallory James Mahoney, I am very curious about how to hug a cow because obviously they don't have arms to put around your back. So what is your secret to hug cow and
my secret
reciprocally?
Yeah, it's definitely a little interesting, but just, I guess I don't fully hug you back, but you feel it from them that they want to. But they're so warm and fuzzy, and they're just so sweet. I love giving them hugs.
Absolutely. It is very important to have a great relationship on the set with Miss O'Neal. And Mallory James Mahoney, what was your first reaction reading the script of that last season 6? Because I assume that it was a surprise for you.
Absolutely. So the biggest change, especially for my character in season 6, is she went from a camper at Camp Kikiwaka, and now we're going to Ranch Kikiwaka, obviously, but she's going to be a counselor there. So that is such a big change for her, and I feel like it's so good for Destiny, too, because we've seen her grow and become such a different person throughout the show. So I feel like it just perfectly fit for her to gain a little more responsibility. And we did set it up in the last episode of season 5 that she would start training to become a counselor. So it's really cool that she finally got to have her own camper. And I will say, her camper, Winnie, is definitely very different than anything she could have expected.
Absolutely, and Mallory James Mahoney, this television series called Bunk'd has been in the center of your journey since 2018. Can you tell us a little bit more about how it all began, and especially how Destiny Baker became a very comical character?
So the story of how Destiny was born is actually a really fun one, because when I went out for my part on Bunk'd, I wasn't going out for Destiny at all. She did not exist. She did not exist in our cinematic universe in any way. I auditioned for another character. I believe her name was Anastasia, and she was this like theater girl. Just all very over the top, very extrovert. Just always doing theater parts and like auditioning for characters. And so that's actually the character that I went in for my chemistry read with all of the previous cast of Bunk'd, and read with them. So it was really weird being cast for that part. And then later the writers got on a Skype call with me and they were like, hey, so we're thinking about possibly doing some changes to your character. Are you cool with that? I was like, yeah, sure. They're like, so we're thinking about maybe having her be like a pageant girl. They're like, have you ever been in a pageant? I was like, oh no, I haven't. They're like, do you know what pageants are? I was like, oh, well, yeah, I'm from Texas. I know what pageants are. We got a lot of those here. And so then they were asking me like, oh, well, if you were in a pageant, do you have anything you think would be your talent? I was like, I don't know, probably like tap. And they're like, oh, so you're a tap dancer? I was like, no, I just feel like I would pick that for my talent, because why not? So that's kind of, I guess, how Destiny Baker was born, and she's just grown so much through the years, and I love the character so much.
You love the character so much, Mallory James Mahoney, and I am very appreciating this concept that you just mentioned of the extended cinematic universe of all the character of Bunk'd with Anastasia, but also with Marshall, but not just Marshall, the Marshall.
The Marshall. He can't go by any other name.
Can you tell us a little bit more about who this character is, who the Marshall is?
So the Marshall is a man who is the mayor of Dusty Tush and has a lot of different roles in the town. Honestly, I could not name them all to you. So he wears a lot of different hats, but it starts because he is the original owner of our ranch Kikiwaka, and he has not finalized the sale to Lou. So we are trying to finalize the sale to him, and at first he thinks we are totally different people because he would hate the idea of having a bunch of little kids running around on his property. So that's a little interesting considering we're going to be a camp. But in the end, he decides that he does want to give the camp to us, and we ended up buying from him, and then we have a lot of run-ins with him in the town later.
Absolutely. It is better to have a camp for kids and activities like that than to turn it into a yoga retreat.
Absolutely. No cowboy wants a yoga retreat here.
Absolutely. And to come back to Miss O'Veil, I assume that you had a cow trainer on set. Can you tell us a little bit more about, for example, some funny times on set, because it is an animal that doesn't always follow your guidance and all the script that the writer wrote.
Oh, absolutely. So cows are very interesting to work with because they're real big fans of just standing where they are, which is great most of the time until you need them to move. Then it gets a little more difficult. So cows cannot run, which we've come into some trouble with because we like having our animals and children run around on our show. But one thing is with the cows is they do love treats and their grain that they eat. So all the trainers will have a big bucket of grain and they just shake it all the way across the lawn, and there comes Freckles, aka Miss Oville, just slowly trudging along, walking across the great lawn. So we try to not write her where she has to walk around too much, especially because getting her back on her original mark is always a bit of an ordeal. It takes at least 3 people, I swear. But it's always fun. I love having her around.
If I understood correctly, Mallory James Mahoney, the gaffer, and the people in charge of positioning the cow are living a daily nightmare. And you just told me that cows are very good at just standing where they are. And this is very easy then to do some branding on the cow. I am referring to one of the first episode of season 6 where you misunderstood one of your mission concerning the term branding.
So that episode was a little scary to me at first when I first read it because it's all about Destiny having to brand this cow. And her and I are very similar in the fact that we don't want to hurt the animals. So the thought of having to do this metal hot branding on her sounds terrible to both of us, really. So I like Destiny's idea where instead of using actual branding, she puts some giant diamonds on the cow's rear and says, well, I mean, I feel like it's a pretty good idea of branding because it doesn't hurt the cow. It's very fashionable. And, I mean, you'll know which cow is yours when you see the sparkles on their butt.
Absolutely. And to come back to the present moment, Mallory James Mahoney, this was season 6, but right now you are working on the upcoming season and you are in the middle of recording, except this week because you told me it was your week off in Texas. Can you tell us a little bit more about the new upcoming challenges for yourself, but also the evolution of your very specific character?
So this next season is going to be really fun because it's a lot of the same shenanigans that we're getting into and a lot of people getting into trouble and lots of things happening that don't seem like they should ever happen at a normal summer camp, but somehow we always find trouble at Camp Kikiwaka or Ranch Kikiwaka. But I would say one of the most exciting things that I've noticed about this season is even in season 6, we had a lot more animals than we've ever had before, but we have so many more animals than we've had any time on the show. I feel like every week we have at least one animal, if not 3 or 4. So it's been super exciting. I always love working with animals, and our animals that we've had have been very well trained, which is so wonderful to have. It's not always the case. We've had a few that were interesting in their training abilities, just to say the least. But we have had wonderfully trained animals, and it's been so much fun to work with all of them.
It is always fun to work with all those animals. And I personally believe, Mallory James Mahoney, that even in season 12, I will never get used to that name, Kiki Waka.
Yeah, it's an interesting name. I'm not sure where the original idea for it came from, but it's a fun name.
Absolutely. And at the very end of season 6, your last sentence is actually, I wish I knew this trick 3 explosions ago, which is making me creating a connection with another of your project, because maybe that it was the purpose of digging that hole and cavity in the garden back in 2014 in this Sundance nominated short film.
Yes, Dig is, it was so much fun to film. It was one of my first, bigger projects, and I had so much fun on it. And yes, the reason that my dad was digging that hole is still a mystery to all of us. And I guess we'll never know. But we use our imaginations. Maybe it was for explosions. Maybe that's what Destiny's been dealing with her whole life.
Absolutely, hiding from the mistakes of all the other counselor and campers, and to come back to that very powerful short film called Dig. At the very end, she takes the shovel to continue digging. What is your personal interpretation and theory about that?
I feel like that story is just, you see so much of the bond between the father and the daughter, and I think it's just this deep connection that they have to each other and the love they have for each other, that she knew whatever he was digging this hole for, it was important to him. And so even though he can't continue digging anymore, she's going to keep that going for him. And I think that's just such a sweet story and such a sweet idea to think about. Of that, even if a person isn't there to continue what they were working on, the people around them who love them will continue that work for them. And I think it's such an amazing idea.
It is a great idea to continue this legacy of digging the ground of the garden. And actually, even almost 10 years ago now, we could already witness your acting skills and how you are raising your left eyebrow, especially in the very first scene of Dig.
Yes, the eyebrow is, it's an interesting one. I don't know. I have a lot of control over my facial muscles, and I don't know how. But yes, the eyebrow is very talented, I guess.
The eyebrow it owns a Sundance award.
Thank you.
But on the other side, the right eyebrow needs some training. But
I know, I gotta keep working on it.
This will come. Absolutely, you will be keep on working on it. Mallory James Mahoney, and you started acting and playing, for example, as we just mentioned in Dig or in Heaven Sent, since a very early age, since a very long time ago. And I would love to discuss about the beginning of that journey. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
So how I first really got started acting is when I was about 5 years old, I want to say. I went to a play with my parents, and I was just sitting there watching the play, and something in my head just clicked, like this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do with my life. I love this. And so internally, just I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And so I told my parents, and I was really shy when I was young. So they're like, no way, she's going to hate it. No, you don't want to do that. It'll be terrible. So it took me a year of me asking them, like, hey, this is what I want to do. And finally, they put me in a local theater, really, I think, just to scare me out of it, so they can prove, like, you're not going to like it. Like, you won't want to be on camera in front of people, on stage, whatever. And my first week there, my mom got a phone call, and the director of the program's like, hey, we want to give Mallory a solo. My mom's like, oh, sorry, I think you have the wrong parent, because I'm pretty sure you would have to audition for a solo. And they're like, well, you're Mallory Mahoney's mom, right? And she's like, yeah. They're like, well, yeah, she did audition. She booked the solo. And my mom's like, oh, okay. And so I really think that's kind of where it all started, is just I figured out really young that this is what I want to do, and I've been loving it ever since.
At the beginning, it was all about having a revelation by watching people, as you just mentioned, Mallory James Mahoney, performing on stage, which can be different from the screen work. How do you see that transition and those different fields?
Absolutely. It's very different types of acting and so many different factors that come into it with the two different styles of acting that you can do. And obviously I did start in theater, but I didn't stick with it for long. Once I found acting for film and TV, that was my home. That is what I loved. And there's lots of different factors for it, because I originally started, even when I did film and TV, I was always in single cam projects and movies where they had a microphone directly on me. So I never had to talk loud. The microphone's right next to my mouth. And then when I switched to Bunk'd, we have boom microphones that are a few feet away from you in the air. So you got to talk a lot louder so the microphone can hear you. And that was definitely an adjustment for me back in season 3, because I was so used to not having to talk super loud. It's a whole new environment, for sure, but it's just something that you grow and learn to do, and once you figure it out, it just comes so naturally.
It comes all naturally because you don't need to scream to the more child. You can just speak to him normally.
Definitely. It's a little interesting, but I've learned to talk a lot louder now.
Absolutely, talking loud and raising the left eyebrow. And
yes.
Mallory James Mahoney, I am actually very curious about your next step in the upcoming years. Where do you see your projects going? For example, maybe from comedy to another genre and exploring different new things.
Absolutely. I love, honestly, just every different genre, I feel like. There's so many different types of projects I would love to be in. I love comedy, but I also love drama. I would love to do fun things like a horror movie or a period piece. So I'd really just I love working. I'm happy to do whatever's offered to me, I feel like.
Absolutely, Mallory James Mahoney, but in some way there are already some horrific scenes in Bunk'd. For example, when some of your friends are falling into the ground and you found them following the trail of puka shells.
Yes, the classic puka shells. Yeah, we've had a little bit of scary things on the show, I would definitely say. I feel like it's become a lot more stressful for Destiny as a counselor now, too, because she's not the one getting in danger as much anymore. It's all of the ones she's in charge of. So that's a little bit scary, but I even remember back in season 3, our first 2 episodes were me and the 2 other boys that had joined the show with me. We were both almost dying in both of the first episodes. In the first one, we almost got attacked by a bear, which was super fun because it was a guy in a bear suit, and he was really nice. His name was Mike. I loved him. But then the second episode, we were in a bounce house on a river, which was odd, and then the river continues and it goes to a waterfall. So we almost fall off a waterfall in a bounce house. And in that episode, we're in the rapids of the water, and so we're getting sprayed with water in that bounce house. The water was freezing. So we're bouncing around, getting sprayed with ice cold water. Oh, it was It was so cold that episode, but it was so much fun to film. And I mean, how often can you say that you get to be on a bounce house on TV? So I say it was fun.
In conclusion, danger is never far away, and I am looking forward to watch the next chapter of the adventure of Destiny Baker. Thank you, Mallory James Mahoney.
Thank you so much. This has been awesome.